Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. So this is our 8th masterclass, and today we're going to be delving into A-level English literature. I have with me Miss Collier, who's going to introduce herself in a moment. As always, we have Slido. The code is there in the top right corner. This is for you to ask any questions about English literature. So at the end, we'll go to the Slido questions and we'll try and answer them for you. If you're not watching this live, then please do drop us an email if you do have any questions about A-level English, and we'll be sure to answer them. Okay, so over to Miss Collier. Hello.
Afternoon, everyone. I hope that you're safely at home and that you're going to enjoy the next 15 or 20 minutes. I'm Miss Collier. I'm the A-level English teacher within the school, and I'm also assistant principal.
Thank you, Miss. So English is a subject, Miss, that we've studied since year 7. We all know pretty much what English literature is all about. But if you had to summarise it, how would you do this for us?
So English literature, have a look at the screen as well if you can. English literature is basically the study and the appreciation of a range of different texts. So we study plays, both modern and older, a range of different poems and some different prose texts as well. So basically it's just an appreciation of different styles, different genres, different works of fiction really, and it's just acknowledging the great wealth of literature that's out there and kind of delving into the reasons why they were made and kind of the contextual history behind them. And it's about really having kind of a love and a passion, kind of getting to grips with the characters, the storylines, and all of the kind of the contextual factors that feed into why the novels were kind of created. As you can see on the screen, basically, it allows you to show an ability of your reading, your understanding, your skills of analysis, how perceptive you are, how you can kind of understand the written word and then translate that into your own ideas, your own opinions and arguments.
Wonderful, thank you. And Miss Collier, what is it that you love about English so much?
And this might sound really corny, but I've actually really enjoyed English. I guess you should have to being a teacher. One of my earliest memories, back to when I was about 3 or 4, I was on holiday in Spain, and I can just remember the whole holiday. I was just reading Three Little Pigs and things like that, and I used to sit there writing them out and drawing my own little storybooks. So I've always loved English, and I think what I love is the ability to kind of delve into the stories, to get really hooked on the characters and the storylines, to become quite impassioned by the wrongs or the injustices, and to kind of get to the end of it and recognise that everything hopefully is solved and the world is right again. It's just like a TV or a film that you can kind of lose yourself for a few hours and really kind of engross yourself in the text and the characters. And I think English is a great way to do that.
Thank you, wonderful. So what about the course structure, Miss? So could you tell us a little bit more about what students might study if they do pick English literature?
Of course. So hopefully you can see on the screen that we are broken up into 4 units. So we have paper 1, which is our drama unit, and you will study both plays within the first year, so in year 12. So we study Othello by William Shakespeare and A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. So obviously Shakespeare is the older text, Streetcar Named Desire is more modern text. So they both will be studied across the first year. Paper 2 is our prose text. So it's a really short exam. It's only an hour and 15 minutes, but you have to write a comparison of 2 different novels. Now I've selected the supernatural theme, and the novels that I've selected are The Picture of Dorian Gray and Bram Stoker's Dracula, but you won't study them until year 11. So as you can see on the screen, the different colours, the purple are the units that you study in year 12, and the yellow are the units that you study across year 13. So it's quite evenly broken up. And then in year 12 and 13, we study paper 3, which is our poetry unit. Now, you will all be really kind of aware of poetry because of the amount you study in year 11 at the moment. And we cannot escape poetry, I'm afraid, whether you like it or hate it. But the great thing about the kind of English literature poems are that they study more modern as well as older poems. So in year 12, we study a collection of poems called the Poems of the Decade. And they are really more modern, dealing with kind of modern day issues. It could be eating disorders, technology versus humanity. There's a poem in there about 9/11 as well. So it's kind of more modern, more cultural issues. And then in year 13, we start to look at a collection of poems from the Romantic movement. So that's a range of different poems who consider themselves to be the Romantics, and basically the ideas behind their movement and how they wanted to change the world. And then the final unit is the NEA, so that's the non-examined assessment. So pretty much that's your coursework. And we will introduce that at the end of year 12 to give you the summer to get to grips with it, to pick your texts. And then in year 13, you have 6 to 9 months, depending on how long we need to write, to draft, and to finalise your coursework. So it's a 3,000 word body of text, but you have quite a lot of independent work and study that goes into it.
Thank you. Quite a variety, and I like the fact you were saying about it being quite recent context as well.
Yeah.
So that I'm sure that makes it quite interesting for the lessons. So if a student was to choose to study English literature, where might it take them? What can their future hold?
Well, the great thing about English literature is that it will pretty much open any door to you. Majority of students who study English literature at the moment will go on to kind of university, but quite a few of my current students are looking to go into apprenticeships in journalism and things like that at the moment. As you can see on the screen, pretty much a degree in English literature will basically allow you to go on to do any career path you want. So something creative, something in TV, in media. I know people that have gone into law, in speech therapy. Part of my degree was actually law, so I did English and law at university. So they blend really well together. Anything, pretty much. The ability to show that you can read, you can write, you can speak, you can communicate accurately and effectively, and that you have those skills of analysis. Pretty much any future employer would want to see English literature on your CV. And it goes so well with history, psychology, sociology, media, and so many other subjects. So I would advise you to pick your subjects really carefully, weigh up kind of the coursework issues and how the exam units in each. But an English literature qualification will pretty much take you anywhere. You can do anything, and it goes well with all of the other. And I know I'm slightly biased, but it genuinely does go with everything.
It sounds like it does. You've convinced us. And what kind of person are we looking at that should be really picking this subject? How would you summarise that person?
Now, this may sound really obvious, but you have to enjoy reading. Now, believe it or not, I've had a few year 13s who, at the end of the course, they say, I don't really like reading. And they've studied 2 years of nothing but reading. So you do have to really enjoy reading it. It might not be something you pick up a book every single night and you read for fun, but you have to have the ability to pick up a book and read independently and do that. Because obviously, we can't read everything in class all of the time. So you are going to have to read your chunks at home, especially your coursework texts. You'll be reading those across the summer between year 12 and 13. You have to have the ability to be able to communicate and the ability to confidently express your ideas. Now, you don't have to be the most confident, the most loudest person, but you have to be able to have kind of the confidence in your own opinion, to be able to express your ideas in a group or as a class. I really rely on my students to be able to share ideas, to take part in lessons, to disagree with me or themselves. I love it when students say, actually, Miss, I want to disagree with that, or can I add to that person's idea? Actually, I don't agree. You have to have the kind of the confidence to form and generate and express yourself. One thing that's really, really important is resilience. Now, it is, as much as I'd love you to take up English literature, and obviously I am biased, please don't think that it's a really easy stepping stone from GCSE to A level. It is quite difficult, and you do have to almost start at the bottom and work your way up again. You know, I have students who got an A star at English literature GCSE, and then when it comes to their first assessment in A level in year 12, they may not get an A star, or an A, or B, or even a C. And it is quite tough going, but it's worth it because you start to suddenly see your grades increase. And I've got students who their very first piece of work in year 12 was a U, and now they're getting A's. So across the 2 years, it's a real development. So be resilient, have strength in your character. And the rest of the skills we can work on. Obviously, I'd like you to be able to put pen to paper, use apostrophes or capital letters, but we work on that. And you're crafting your essays, your written analysis. We all work on that together, but have a love of the subject and be resilient and confident. They're the kind of the key ideas that I'd like you to, characteristics I'd like you to have.
Excellent. And you say meet deadlines as well. I imagine there's lots of essays that they need to be handing in. So,
well, we can't really aim to complete an essay every fortnight.
Okay.
So to some degree, there is an extended piece of writing every fortnight. And obviously, when it comes to coursework, I'll be setting regular deadlines across year 13 for when I'd like to see the drafts. So that might be 500 words by this date, 1,000 words by this date. So to enable me to get coursework marked and work marked and back to you in a timely fashion, you obviously do need to meet those deadlines as well.
Okay, wonderful, excellent. Lots of information. Thank you so much. So we're going to go to some student questions now. And there's one here that I've got coming. They're all sort of saying anonymous. I've got no names to them. But this one says, is there an entry requirement? You did mention the A star at GCSE. Do they need to get an A star to be able to choose it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would be lovely, but it is not essential. And obviously, like I said, it's a 2-year course and you do grow and develop across the 2 years. Ideally, we say a 6. Okay. So we'd like to have a 6 in English literature or English language, but obviously we only do study English literature. So a 6 in English literature would be kind of the basics that we're looking for. We will take individual grades and people into account. So we will, if you come in on the day and you was like, I didn't get a 6, I got this, and obviously we'll have a conversation with you and see what we can do. But 6 is the ideal, please.
Okay, wonderful. And you've kind of touched on English language there. So one of the questions related to that is, what is the difference, please, between English literature and English language?
Yep, so English language at A-level is absolutely totally different to the English language that you currently study at GCSE. So at GCSE, you know, it's about reading different texts, using your skills of analysis to look at the language and the structure, making comparisons. English language at GCSE and at university level, it's more exploring the craft of the English language and the roots of the English language and where it came from and how it's generated and changed over time. I just feel personally, in every school that I've worked in, we only have ever studied English literature. It's a lot more interesting. It allows students to engage as well. And it relates more to kind of contextual life as well. So we do only study English literature, but there will be places out there that study language, but not too many, I believe.
Okay. Also, slightly linked, this is a question that's come in from somebody. It says, I'm a foreigner, but I really like English literature. Would it be difficult for me?
No, absolutely not. As long as you enjoy reading and we can work on your vocabulary, absolutely not. I'd never want to limit anyone. English literature is available for everybody.
Wonderful. Is there any links to media, please? Are there any relations to journalism or communication studies?
Not necessarily through the units themselves, but I currently have a year 13 who studies media and English literature, and she is looking to go on an apprenticeship in journalism, looking to kind of work for the BBC at the moment. So the two naturally do blend themselves together through the kind of the analytical skills, but no actual kind of cross-subject links.
Okay, thank you. I've got lots of questions coming in, by the way. Does the English that we will learn help us to analyse people's intentions, just as we do with Shakespeare or poetry?
Yeah, pretty much. How I teach my year 11s at the moment, there are some degrees and some elements of that I do blend in with my year 13s. So on a basic level, they are the same, but obviously we just delve into a lot more deeper meaning, a lot more deeper analysis. But we always talk about the writer's intentions. It's so important to recognise why the writer constructed the character or why they created the play or the text that way. So everything comes back to the writer, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Would you recommend we start reading the text now?
100%, absolutely. And you can buy them for cheap price on Amazon. I wouldn't read ahead to year 13, just in case I had a change of heart and wanted to change the texts based on the students I've got in the class and based on kind of their interests. But 100%, if you could read Othello or A Streetcar Named Desire in advance, that would be phenomenal, 100%. Or generally, when you come for taster sessions, masterclass sessions after the half term, we'll give you a reading list. Any sort of reading that will help develop your understanding of the text we're going to study, anything maybe of an older nature, so some of the classics, that would definitely help you.
Excellent, thank you. So another question here. Interesting. Does English literature help us to talk well and influence people?
Oh,
interesting question.
I think all of your subjects should really encourage you to talk well. I think it's the job of every single teacher to make sure that you can communicate well and appropriately for every sort of situation that you find yourself in. For your AO1 marks, so AO1 in English literature is about your written and your spoken communication. It's about the vocabulary you use and how you kind of communicate your ideas. So yes, you are still assessed on that. And I think naturally, the more you talk, the more you communicate, the better you become at it. It's not fundamentally assessed, but it is definitely part of the course in itself.
Thank you. Now, this question, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by this. Can you expand more on the NEA? So is there anything else that we need to know about?
Yeah, so the NEA is basically, it's a 3,000 word comparison essay. So generally it's 2 texts. It can be prose, plays, a collection of poems. Literally you have free choice. But generally how I do it at the moment, and I've done this for the last few years, is I will give you one text, and the current text is 1984 by George Orwell. And then I give you a list of companion texts, and you pick the one that you are most interested in. So over the summer holiday between year 12 and 13, you would go away, you would read a few of those texts to see which one you engage with the most. And then basically it's a comparison between those 2 texts. So they all have something similar in common. I will write an individual question per person based on your interests or your texts. So at the moment I've got in my class, quite a few of them are comparing The Handmaid's Tale with 1984. One person is comparing The Kite Runner. One person is comparing A Brave New World. So they've all got individual questions written for them based on their interests. And you have quite a long time to do it, because obviously it's a really independent piece of work, and it's about the drafting, the crafting of your essay. So it's a comparison of a particular idea or theme across 2 texts.
Thank you, Miss. The questions are still coming in. We might have to put a stop to some of them in a moment, just so we could be here all night. Are there many similarities between the characteristics of the GCSE course and the A-level?
Yeah, there are. The assessment objectives are pretty much the same. So you have to have a contextual understanding, you have to be able to compare, you have to be able to analyse language, structure, form, you have to be able to pick apart quotations. So pretty much on a basic level, everything is exactly the same. But when it comes to A-level, you have to be able to deepen your understanding, deepen your analysis. You have to have wider connections to context. You have to do lots of wider reading to allow critical theory to inform your own opinions. It's really about your crafting of arguments and your opinions that's slightly different. So on a fundamental level, it's pretty much the same, but it just takes it to a kind of a higher level. Obviously.
Thank you. I think that helps to answer another question someone asked earlier, which I haven't read out yet, about structure, comparing it to GCSE. So hopefully that for that person, that's been answered as well. We've got a question about assessment, and I know you have mentioned this. Is it assessed internally or externally? So the NEA you said was internally.
Right, so they are all, the NEA is internally marked by me, your class teacher, but then it has to be sent off to be externally moderated. So an examiner would have to check and double check my marking to see if they agree with me. All of the exam units are externally assessed.
Okay, thank you. And Miss, I'm not sure about your knowledge on the EPQ. They're saying it's not completely related, but would you recommend an EPQ? Are there any crossovers in the skills used in English?
In the school I was in previously to BA, most of my English class actually did take on the EPQ. I think you just have to be aware of how much work goes into the EPQ at the same time as your others. I think I would always encourage someone to take an EPQ on, because it's kind of an individual project, as it in simplified form, but it is quite a lot of writing, quite a lot of essay based, and so I think just be really aware of kind of the time constraints and the deadlines and the work that you've got to put into it. But I know that my students in my prior school benefited, actually really did enjoy it, and it goes quite nicely with your English kind of coursework and the fact that you can write and communicate well.
Excellent. And the EPQ is, for information, something that we have done here, and we do intend to do for year 13s as well. So it is an additional qualification, isn't it? So thank you, Miss Collier. We did get through all the questions. I think we did.
Hey.
So if we didn't get to your question, or like I say, you're not watching this live and you do have a question, please drop me an email, and I will of course ask Miss Collier for her answers to that, and I'll get back to you. So please don't hesitate to do that. Thank you, Miss Collier, for joining me this afternoon. Been very informative, and please do join us next week for the next masterclass. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.